Okay, guys, notes are out. Let's look at our sideboard. Monday, the 2nd of March, our first school day of March, guys. Holy cow, we have 2 weeks and we have spring break. Woo, we'll be here before we know it. Okay, we'll be here before we know it. So, SMBA students will be able to factor trinomials. Factor trinomials when A does not equal 1. It says it's supposed to say A does not equal 1. Okay? So, trinomial. These are all trinomials. How many terms does a trinomial have? 3. So we're going to learn how to factor with 3 terms. Before we learn how to factor by GCF and how to factor with 4 terms. Now we're going to learn how to factor with 3 terms.
Oh, yeah.
And as you can see up there, there's the standard form for what we call a quadratic equation. Wow. Okay. Ooh, good call. That's a quadratic expression then. You're right.
I'll keep it a secret in there.
Whoa.
I feel like there's a secret in there now.
Totally. Okay.
You want homework or something?
What else would I say if I put a secret in there? Yeah, keep secrets in
You
there.
got a pool table?
Yeah. Think you have school.
What's your console? Do you play games?
No, what?
You live like
Not well. So, ax squared plus bx plus c. So what we call a quadratic is when it's raised to the 2nd power. So it's power of 2. If you recall, we had linear equations before, where the standard form was ax plus by equals c. Okay, that was our standard form for linear equation. Linear equation was when we had an exponent of 1 on the x. Remember, and those made a straight line. Now we're going to just briefly talk about quadratics. We'll talk about quadratics a lot more in depth next chapter. We're going to learn how to factor them first. So it's just with that squared. So we have ax plus bx, ax squared plus bx plus c. And notice these are in descending order. For example, we have x squared, x, and no x. X squared, x, and no x. X squared. Ooh, this one's not standard. We'll have to fix that later, won't we? Okay. So the a is whatever's with x squared, the b is whatever's with x, and the c is whatever's by itself. So in this first one, what is our A, what is our B, and what is our C? Okay? Levi, what's our A?
3x squared.
Okay, our A is actually just going to be the 3, but it is with the x squared. So it's the coefficient with that x squared. So the A is whatever's multiplying with x squared. Okay, what's our B? Okay, Serenity? Very good. -5. We can take a sign with it. It's a -5. And what's our C here? -2. Very good, Dalton. I want you guys to go ahead and write down what our A, B, and C on number 2 would be. Okay. Raise your hand for A. Okay. Dalton? 1. Victoria, what's our B? 2. And Hannah, what's our C? 1. Very good. Now here, what's our A, B, and C? Can anybody tell me? Okay, Serenity? Either or. Okay, I'm going to slightly disagree. Does anybody know what I slightly disagree with? I agree with that.
No. 7 is B and 5 is C.
How do we know 7 is B and 5 is C, Serenity?
Because 7 has the X and then 5 has the C.
Yeah, 7 has the X, 5 has the C. So this isn't quite in our standard form or normal descending order. So So if we reorder this and made it 2x squared plus 7x plus 5, is it now a little easier for us to see what the B and C are? Yeah. Because otherwise we just get caught going A first, B second, C last. Oh, but wait. We have 7's with the x, so it's our B. Okay? Question on that? Just identifying A, B, and C, saying, oh, that's what it is. Okay. So now we're going to learn to actually factor these trinomials, which is once again 3 terms. We learned factoring a 4-term polynomial, which we did grouping. What we're going to learn is we're going to learn how to turn a 3-term polynomial like these into a 4-term polynomial. So we're going to learn how to turn one of these into a 4-term polynomial that factors well. So, factoring trinomials can be done with grouping, just like we practiced with the 4-term polynomials we did in our warm-up and during our homework today. Not our homework, during our homework that we just turned in. It can be done with grouping after just a little bit of rewriting. So we're going to go through some steps that help us to rewrite it. So our first step is we're going to make sure our trinomial is in ax squared plus bx plus c order, our standard form. Okay. Second, we're going to fill in an x. You guys don't know what that means yet, but we're going to fill in an x with 2 numbers that multiply to equal a times c and add to equal b. We're going to go through what that means. Step 3, rewrite your trinomial with these two numbers replacing the bx, so there's 4 terms, and then we're going to factor by grouping like we have them. Okay, what's this mean? Let's start off with our first example and show this. So make sure our trinomial is in ax squared plus bx plus c order, our standard form. Is it already? Yeah, it's in our descending form. Okay? So then it says fill in our x. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to make an x. So I'm going to make an x big enough so I can write in the top, bottom, left, and right. So I'm going to make an x big enough so I can write one number in the top, one number in the bottom, one number in the left, and one number in the right. On the top, I'm going to put what our a times c is. And on the bottom, I'm going to put our b. Okay? So the top, I'm going to put whatever a times c is. And on the bottom, I'm going to put our b. Now, what was our a, b, and c here? We just practiced identifying those. So what's our a, what's our b, and what's our c? A is 2. Negative 7 is b. And b and c is negative 15, excuse me. So what's a times c? What's 2 times negative 15? Negative, not 13, but negative 30. So we're going to put that in the top. That's what a times c is. So we're going to put that in the top. Okay? And then what am I putting in the bottom? Negative 7, whatever our b is. So that's step 2. Fill in our x. So you have to make an x. And then fill it in with 2 numbers that multiply to equal a times c. And this. Or excuse me, now we're gonna finish the step, excuse me. So now we're gonna fill in the rest of our x. We set up our x. Now we're gonna fill in the 2 sides. Now for our 2 sides, we want 2 numbers that multiply to the top, but add to the bottom. We want 2 numbers that multiply to the top, but add to the bottom. So we want 2 factors of 30, but that also now adds to negative 7. Now here's the thing. Are we going to multiply to a positive or a negative number? Negative. So what do we know about 2 numbers that multiply to get to a negative? One's negative and one has to be positive, right? If you're multiplying to get a negative, one has to be negative, one has to be positive. So we know we're going to have one of these 2 numbers be a negative and a positive number. We know one of the numbers is going to be a negative number, one of the numbers is going to be a positive number. Now let's work through our factors of 30 and figure this out. Which ones might go up to negative 7? One's negative and one's positive. So I could have 1 times 30. Will those get to negative 7 though? No, okay. So if one's negative, one's positive, those get to 29, either positive or negative. So what's the next factor of 30? 2 times 15. Will that get us there? No. Does anybody have a next suggestion? Matthew? 3 and 10, 10 and 3. Will that get us there? Yeah. Which one's negative? 10. And which one's positive? How do we know that 10 was negative? Yeah, because if the 10 is negative and you add 3 more to it, you get negative 7. Okay? So if you go in this way, you get negative 7. So do negative 10 and 3 multiply to the top number? Yeah. And if we add these negative 10 and 3, do we get the bottom? We totally do. So that's our step 2. That's finishing up step 2, was filling in the rest of that x. So now, we're going to step into step 3. We're going to rewrite our trinomial with these two numbers replacing our bx. So the first one stays the same. So we're going to leave 2x squared. You don't have to draw these arrows, but I'm going to show you guys up here. We're going to leave 2x squared the same. Negative 15 is also going to stay the same. Our first and our last stay the same. But what happens is we split our middle, our bx, so to speak, because ax squared plus bx, into two different terms. And that's what we use these two side numbers that we found. That's what we use these two side numbers that we found for. So we're going to split it into negative 10x plus 3x. We pulled the negative 10 and the 3 from the sides of our x. And then we just slap an x on it, because negative 7x had an x with it. Now do we have a 4-term polynomial?
Yes.
So we'll factor this one by grouping. But before we do, just to double check, can I combine these like terms, negative 10x and 3x?
Yeah.
And what would I get? Negative 7x. So would I start with the same thing we just had? Yeah. So if I combine these, I'd go back to the same thing I had, which is why we're able to do it. Mathematically, this is still equal to the same thing. We just wrote it differently. Presley. So yeah, so now from here, we progress to what we did last time. Does that make sense? Yeah. So what we're learning today was what we've done so far. That's the new stuff. So identifying A, B, and C, making this x, filling it in, rewriting, that's new. Now, in our, let's go light blue and on, in our light blue and on, this is the old stuff. So the dark blue and red is our new, the light blue and beyond is old. So if I were to factor this by grouping, I'd group the first two together and the last two together, just like we did on the whiteboard for our homework. And I want to say, okay, what's my GCF of those first two? Of 2x squared minus 10x, what's my GCF? 2x. So I'm going to factor out a 2x, and I'm left with x minus 5. And then now what's my GCF of that second parenthesis? 3x minus 15. 3. So pull out a positive 3, and we're left with x minus 5. And hey, what do we notice about these parentheses? They're the same. So what can we do with that? Yeah, we factor x minus 5 out of both, and we're left with x minus 5 in the first parenthesis. And second parenthesis, we're left with the 2x plus 3. And we get our answer. And we get our answer. Okay. The only difference between today and last time was last time we started with the red. Last time we started with the red and we used the light blue to finish. This time, we start with the black, we use the dark blue to get us to the red. And then we finish. And what would we get, guys, if we went through and FOILed and combined like terms? Yeah, you get 2x squared minus 7x minus 15. You get the same thing we started with. That's how you can double check your work if you wanted. Just like always, we can double check our work, right? Okay. Question on that process. I know it's kind of a weird one. Question on that process. Okay. Let's try number 2 here. Step 1, make sure our trinomial is in the right order. Is it in the right order? No, so we have to rewrite it. Somebody tell me how to rewrite this one. Okay? 9x squared minus 20x plus 4. Very good. Let's see what's written down now, folks. Forget. Now, what is our A, B, and C? We want to pull out our A, our B, and our C. Dylan, what's my A?
9.
Okay. Dalton, what's my B?
20.
Okay, what kind of 20? Negative 20. Very good. And Chase, what's my C? Very good. So I pull my A, B, and C. Now I have to make this X again. How do I know what number goes on the top and the bottom? The top is A times C. I suggest you keep writing A times C until you remember it. Okay, until you remember, I suggest you keep writing A times C every time, because the more you write it, the better you're going to remember it. On the bottom, we're going to put what? B, whatever the B is. So on top, what is A times C? 36, very good. On the bottom, what is B? Negative 20. So now we're going to need to figure out two numbers that multiply to the top and add to the bottom. Now before, on the previous one, we said we were multiplying to a negative number, we multiplied to negative 30. We needed a negative and a positive. Here, if we're multiplying to a positive number, what do we know about the two numbers? They're both positive or they're both negative. A positive times a positive, positive. Or a negative times a negative is a positive. Do we have any clues on as to whether they're both going to be positive or both going to be negative? Why do you say that, Levi? Why do you say they're both negative? Yeah, the number we have to add to, negative 20, is negative. Can we add two positives to get a negative number? No, it's not going to happen. So we know we're going to have two negative numbers. That's our hint here. So now we're going to need factors of 36 that add up to 20. Factors of 36 that add up to 20. Now, if you don't know these up top here, if you're not just saying, oh, it's these two numbers, which you might not yet, I get that forever. We go through and we say, okay, what are our factors of 36? So we say 1 and 36, does that work?
No.
Okay, it multiplies 36, but does it add to 20? It adds 37. Okay, so I'm going to keep going in order. 1, what number comes after 1? 2. 2 times what?
12.
18. Hey, does that one work? Yeah. Okay, 2 times 18 is 36. So it doesn't matter which one we put first or second. It does not matter whether we put the 2 first or the 18 first. Okay? That does not matter. Okay? So that was step 2. Step 1 is making sure it's the right order. Step 2 was filling them in. Filling in our x, making our x and filling it in. So now we're going to split our trinomial, and we're going to make it a 4-term polynomial. So what is one term that stays the same? 9x squared stays the same. What is the other term that stays the same? 4. Positive 4. Now what do we do with our middle term? Yeah, we split it into our negative 2 and our negative 18. Once again, it doesn't matter the order. And we call it a negative 2x and a negative 18x. Because if we add these back up again, we have to get negative 20x. We have to get the middle term if we add it back up again.
Would it change anything if I put the 18 to the left?
It would not. No, great question. Yeah, it actually won't change anything if you put the negative 18x and minus 2x. It won't change the thing.
Alright.
Kind of neat.
That is good.
Okay? So now we're kicking in what we did last time for the homework that we turned in today, where we group them. So how do we group these? Because we have 4 terms now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, Levi? 2 parentheses. First set and second set. Now the second set I take the sign with it, right? I made this actually a 9x cubed. What should that be, guys? 9x squared. Thank you. Call me out, Presley. Tell me I'm wrong. That was.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, what's our GCF in our first parenthesis, Maddox? What's our GCF in our first parenthesis? Okay, 1x. 1x or just an x. What was that? Oh, man, jeepers. Thank you, Dylan. That should be a plus, right? Okay. So x is our GCF in our first parenthesis, and we're left with what inside of our parenthesis? 9x minus 2. Now what's my GCF in my second parenthesis? Okay. 2, what kind of 2? Do you want this first term to be positive or negative? You want want it to be positive, so what do we have to pull out? Negative 2. What's 18x divided by negative 2? 9x. And what's 4 divided by negative 2? Negative 2. Hey, are we noticing our parentheses are the same?
Wow.
That's a good sign. So now we can factor those out. Dalton, how do I write this?
X minus 2 in parentheses and then x minus 2.
Very good. 9x minus 2 in parentheses and x minus 2 in parentheses. Very good, very good. Now real quick before we flip, let's look up here. And now I was asked the question, Mr. Kossel, you seem pretty cool. And I said, thanks. Okay? And then they were like, hey, does it matter whether we put the negative 18x and the negative 2x first? And I said, no, let's look at it and prove that. You guys don't have to do this with me, but I want you guys to follow along. So if I had written 9x squared, oof, that was way thicker than I intended. That was at least a few C's. Okay. 9x squared minus 18x minus 2x plus 4. If I had grouped it this way, and I had gone through, and I grouped them from here, group the first two, and the last two, my GCF here is now 9x. So I factor out the 9x, and then I'm left with x minus 2. My GCF here is negative 2. So I want this first term to be positive, so I'm left with x minus 2. So now my x minus 2 is in the first parenthesis. My second parenthesis is 9x minus 2. What changed between here and in the light blue, our first answer that we got?
Order.
The order, right? The first parenthesis versus the second parenthesis. Now, these are just multiplying with each other. Does the order we multiply things matter? No. So these are the same answer. These are the same exact answer. Even though they're in a different order, they're the same exact answer. So it doesn't matter whether we put the negative 18x first or the negative 2x first. It really doesn't matter. Okay? Questions on that? Take mobility.
Yay.
Okay, go to the page.
We have to get them before spring break.
No. Well, it's gonna be close. So you'll finish your packet, but then we're gonna do a review day after spring break. Like
Alright.
that is.
Yeah. Are you gonna give us a review back to like do before spring break?
You should if you want.
So like we can still have fresh memory.
Pressing.
Why is spring break so much later this year? Because last year it was like, it was on my birthday.
I don't think it's later. I could be wrong, but I don't think it is.
Or like March 1st or something.
Do people actually get, is it a realistic thing to travel with spring break? I've never ever traveled.
Some people do, some people don't.
Are you gonna travel on spring break?
My parents, because I want spring break, but my parents aren't on spring break, and they still have to go to work, like.
Yeah. Some people do, some people don't. It's also just nice to have some time off. And there's some debate as to whether we need a full week off for spring break or not, because a lot of people don't travel. Which is fine. So.
Stay when they do.
I'd rather not.
Well, the thought would be is if we just take a couple days off or something,
Or go
and then get out a little bit earlier.
I got a better idea. We'll go a full week without them, but you still go to class.
No, being here is nauseating.
You don't have the fact that you think about homework. You go and still
All right, let's look at number 3 here. Let's look at number 3 here. Okay. 12a squared plus 5a minus 2. What's our first step? Yeah, find our A, B, and C, make sure it's in the right order. Is it already in the right order? Okay, now I just need to pull out what our A, B, and C are. And now we don't actually have to write this every time if you really don't want to. I'm going to be fine with that, but I'm just having us practice it right now. So that way we're just catching our steps easier. Okay, Hannah, what's my A? Okay, what's my B, Hannah?
5.
Okay, what's my C? Very good. Okay, what's my second step, guys? The X. Go ahead, Presley, you tell me. Where does that go? the bottom, but on the
She's at the
top. Oh, you said the top?
On the
I'm
reverse
sorry.
of the bottom.
Okay, on the reverse of the bottom. Okay, A times C is on the top. And so what is A times C? Negative 24, haha. Okay. What goes on the bottom here? Okay, 5, our B. Now we're going to need numbers that multiply to the top, add to the bottom. Now our hint here with our signs is what? A negative and a positive. How do we know it's a negative and a positive? I agree with you. The top was a negative, so to multiply to be a negative, they have to be different signs. Now, I always like to put my negative first. I always like to put my negative first, just because it makes it a little easier when we factor by grouping. You don't have to, but I think it just makes it a little bit easier when we factor by grouping if you do it that way. Like I said, you don't have to. I just think it makes our life a little easier.
Why?
Okay? So I suggest putting the negative first, but you don't have to. So now we need factors to the top that will have a difference, because it's going to be negative and positive, we're going to have a difference of 5. Okay? So, what are some factors of 24, haha? Matthew? You're thinking 8 and 3, which was positive, which was negative? Okay, how did you figure out that the 3 was negative and the 8 was positive? Yeah. Yeah. 8 minus 3 is 5, or negative 3 plus 8 is 5. It has to be positive. Another way to think about it, guys, is if we end with a positive, we're going to need our bigger number to be positive. Okay? So whatever sign our B is, that's whatever sign we need our bigger number to be. Okay? So now we filled in our X. And now Matthew, he didn't walk through the 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6. You don't have to walk through that. But that's just what I do when I start, when I'm like, well, I don't know what it is. So I just start figuring it out and just going through my list. Okay, now what's my step?
You plug the negative 3 and negative 8 into 5a.
Yeah, we rewrite this into 4 terms. We rewrite this into 4 terms by splitting our middle terms. Can somebody tell me what 4-term polynomial I write here? Can somebody tell me what I'll be writing here? Yeah? Yep. That's exactly right. Rusty nailed it. 12a squared minus 3a plus 8a minus 2. So we split that 5a into negative 3a plus 8a. And we can just double check real quick. Hey, what is negative 3a plus 8a? 5a, which is what we have. That's good. Okay. So now we're doing business normal from before. So what would I do at this point? Actually, I'm going to have you guys finish this one off. So when you guys have this one done and have questions on it, raise your hand.
I know.
Very good.
No.
Yeah. That's what I said.
What are you looking at out there?
Yeah, that's very good stuff. This is our stuff. That's the
What you looking at?
If you want, I can
Yeah.
watch this
That
video.
That
That might help you more right now. Yeah, headphones.
Yo, these are awesome.
I can help you.
Oh.
Hey, yo, Matthew, you didn't even check me. Good night. Good.
I need help, but I can't get it from teachers. Jason, you still need-
I was trying to mark with this one. I'm confused now.
Hey, yo, keep it here.
No, it is good. But now we take a 4 on these.
Hey, yeah, go. What? Just a go. A is that dude with that curly hair? Who is it? Ma. I know where he's at.
Now we're taking into consideration.
Mr. Also, guess what? 2 years ago today, Chase jumped off his roof.
How do you learn?
Cause I was there.
You could just count the days.
Are you
Are you?
told me that, and I was like,
Are you guys related? You guys?
No, it's just cause we hung out a lot like 2 years ago.
Like
last year.
No, Dylan said they were coming that week. Everyone was like, no, I don't think.
Yes, I really think you did.
I don't think I did.
They did it.
I know.
I did not.
You did.
Wait.
So-
you mean the Dylan heart attack game?
We grouped these first. Yes. We grouped the first two together and the last two together. Okay, and the GCF of the first one is 3A. Left with 4A minus 1. GCF of the second one is positive 2. And left with 4A minus 1. Inside the parentheses, you have 4A minus 1. So we pull that out as our GCF of both. And second parenthesis, we're left with 3A plus 2. Questions on that one?
No.
Okay, I want you guys to try number 4 on your own. Okay? When you have it or have questions, I want you to raise your hand.
He's mad when he did that. What change is loud? I can be on. Wait, what video is that?
He's hot.
Wait, Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Hey, you're gonna hear me have a hard time.
We're gonna have
Again?
both positive.
We go hard.
Who is that?
That's Miss Hubbard.
Why is it
Who?
30?
Why is he looking at me? I didn't know it's some 60 pictures.
Well, 6 plus negative 2 get negative 1.
What are you
Huh?
doing?
Yeah, what's that get negative 1?
My mom had a YouTube channel. She posted a video of my sisters dancing when we were younger.
You dance with
I think when I was younger,
You guys dance together?
we did. Like we had a whole dance for a song, and I didn't remember half the parts of it. It was behind me. At her. Not my
Bro, Serenity.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't.
That
I'm
why?
supposed to. I'm so. No,
No? Oh, wait, I didn't.
I don't
I
think
switched
it's Matthew.
it to, but yeah, that would be just fine if we did it that way.
We have, how do we get a negative on the top?
I got bought.
No, it's effect on 12.
I did it. No, I think
You're ready to go to.
Very good.
I'm stuck again. No, I think like.
Oh, no. This one's still y squared. This one's just -2. Because you took the y.
No.
Does that make more sense? Right. I think this one might not fit.
Why am I stupid? I'm head out. I don't have a phone, so I have to go with my keys now.
You tried? That's scary.
I'm a good driver.
That's fine. I'm Sarah, I have no one.
I was tired, man. I was taking that 8 in the morning.
You look like you got into a fight. I went to Reddit too last night and looked at the five. I was
Hey, whoa, whoa. It's gonna steal it? Did you go early in the morning too? Until that 8 in the morning, my dad comes to my room at 7:30. He goes, "Let's go." The day after Christmas. I'm not gonna be here. I'm not really not driving this. If I ever see a Presley through the windshield of a car driving, I'm just gonna
Let's talk about this one up here. Okay, so what we're going to do is point out our A, B, and C. And on this one, I'm not even going to have this pointed out since we already did it on our own paper. A times C on the top, B on the bottom. On the top is -12. On the bottom is -4. We know a negative and a positive multiply to a negative. And our negative has to be bigger because we have 4 as being negative. Here, -6 plus 2 multiplied to -12 add up to -4. So we rewrite this trinomial as a 4-term polynomial by splitting our middle term into -6y and +2y that we found from our x. First and last term stay the same. So now we begin to group them into first 2, second 2. And this now is the same thing we did for the homework last time. So we factor out a 3y and we're left with y minus 2. Factor out a 2 and we're left with y minus 2. Same thing in the parentheses, that's awesome. Y minus 2 and 3y plus 2.
Mr. Coffee.
And now it doesn't matter whether you have 3y plus 2 first or second. Yes.
You should edit out the parts that we had that you had in the video of us just doing it.
Yeah, that'd take way too long. If I could do it quickly, then I would, but I can't.
So just get good at it.
Yeah.
Just get what?
Get good at it.
Oh, there you go.
Be good kid.
Question on this one, guys? Okay. Now, we aren't going to do all 6 of these examples today, don't worry. Okay.
Accidentally deletes.
Okay.
Command Z.
Okay. So, we always want to check to see if the trinomial has a GCF to factor out before you begin factoring. We always want to check for a GCF. Do you remember guys factoring out the GCF in our first section, 7.1? We always want to check for that before we factor. That'll make our life easier, okay? Note, if a polynomial can't be factored right prime, we'll have some that can't be factored, okay? So our first one, 3r squared plus 12r minus 63. Those are some big numbers, aren't they? What might we notice though? GCF of 3. That's a GCF of 3. So what we're going to do is we're going to factor out a 3 to start with.
Are we?
Yes.
Are we really?
Yes.
Okay.
0 caps. So what is 3r squared if we factor out a 3? R squared plus what?
R squared plus R.
4R minus 91.
Oh.
63, negative 63 divided by 3 is negative 91.
Five.
Is this a lot more manageable inside the parentheses now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, sir.
That would have made our life terrible for it. We actually wouldn't have gotten the full answer. So if the numbers seem big, factor out a GCF. Now we're gonna make our x. We're gonna make our x with a times c at the top and b on the bottom. And what we choose for our a, b, and c, we do not go back to our original problem. We go back to what is inside our parentheses now. So what's our a times c?
1 times 21.
So it's negative 91. And what's our b? 4. So we do not do 3 times negative 63 and get negative 189. We don't want to find factors of 189. That sounds no fun. Factors of 91 sounds a lot better. So what do we know about our signs? Has to be a negative and positive. We multiply to a negative. Now which number is going to have to be bigger here, guys? The negative or the positive? The positive. Why? Because 4 is positive on the bottom. Okay? So what are some factors of 91 that will have a difference of 4?
3 and 7.
3 and 7. Very good. With the 3, the smaller number being negative, that means positive. Once again, if you're having trouble, do 1 times 91 doesn't work. 2 doesn't work. 3, oh, now it goes into it 7 times.
Got him.
So now we can rewrite this. What we're going to do, guys, is we're going to keep this 3 out in front. We're going to keep the 3 out in front the whole time. And we're going to have this r squared minus 3r plus 7r minus 91. Now inside the parentheses, we'll make 2 more parentheses. So it's going to be the same thing, guys, as what we've been doing, except for now, this 3 is just going to be out in front the whole time.
Why?
Because we had to take out our 3 to begin with, and so we can't just have a poof go away, because then all of a sudden we're dealing with a different problem. That's a great question,
Because
Preston.
he feels lonely, so they invite him.
Yes, only because he feels lonely. Okay? So now, we're going to say, what's our GCF of r squared minus 3? R. And we're left with r minus 3 inside. What's our GCF of 7r minus 91? 7. And we're left with r minus 3. We have the same thing inside the parentheses? That's Gucci. What did I forget? The 3, right? Put another set of parentheses and put this 3 out in front. Okay, but everything else was the same, wasn't it? I just had to remember to bring along the 3 because we had it to start. Now, with this r minus 3, I can pull those in front. And I can put the r plus 7 in our next parenthesis. And what can't I forget?
The 3.
The 3. And now if we were to go back through and multiply through, we'd get what we started with. If I had forgotten my 3, and I multiplied just these 2 binomials, we get the r squared plus 4r minus 91. But the 3 is what turns it into 3r squared plus 12r minus 63. Questions on that? Okay. We're going to do 1, 2, like 3.5 more. So we're going to skip like 1.5. We're going to do like 3.5, we're going to skip like 1.5. Okay? If we look at the second one here, x squared plus 5x plus 7. Let's make our c because it's already in standard form. And there's no GCF of 1, 5, and 7 because all those numbers are prime. What goes on my top? 7. What goes on the bottom? 5. Are we dealing with 2 positive numbers, 2 negative numbers, or 1 of each? 2 positive. Very good. Same sign on the top, so we know they're going to be the same sign. And they have to be both positive because their bottom is positive. Now, what are our factors of 7? 1 and 7. Are there any other factors of 7?
No.
No. Do 1 and 7 add up to 5 though.
No,
So can we factor this?
no.
If you can't complete our x,
Then it's a prime.
it's prime and you can't factor it. So we try to complete the x, we can't. And yes, that's one of them that we did. That was in the half. Okay? That wasn't even the half, that was one of them that we did. Okay? We're gonna skip number 3.
Dang it, I like that one.
Oh, you didn't.
We're gonna try number 4.
How do you know?
Okay? On number 4, what's our first step?
ABC.
ABC?
Do we have to factor?
Yes, man, you did it wrong.
Yeah. Okay.
16 times 2.
Yeah.
Okay, we can do 16 times 2 on the top and get
32.
32. What do we get on the bottom?
12.
Okay. Did anybody notice anything we could do before that though?
Yeah.
We could factor out a GCF, couldn't we?
No.
Let's factor out our GCF. That's gonna make your life easier, guys. Okay.
So we have to erase.
Yes, erase your x.
That's why I stopped before we got too far. So what's inside my parentheses if I had the 2 outside?
6 and
X squared plus 6x plus 8. Now what's actually gonna go in my x here?
8.
Okay. There's gonna be an 8 on the top and 6 on the bottom because 1 times 8 is 8 and 6 is 6.
And it's both gonna be
They're
positive.
both going to be positive, very good, because the top's positive, and the bottom's
2 and
positive.
4.
2 and 4. 24, haha! Okay. So now,
34 funny here.
can somebody tell me how to write this?
Yeah.
C.
Sure.
I cannot tell you.
2 parentheses x squared plus 2x plus 4x plus 8.
Very good. We have that 2x on the outside, and we rewrote everything but the middle term split.
I'm so good at this. Yeah, I don't.
I'm not good at it.
My mom said I have a
I need to be better at it.
My mom
social
said I had.
studies and English brain. And there's like 2 different
A lot of times you tend to be
Is
better at one than
algebra
the other.
1?
Oh, sure.
My mom told me I had ADD.
Okay, so now, this is the same thing we did before, guys, but we just had this 2 out in front. So what do I do inside of my parentheses? Because I have 4 terms. Make more parentheses.
Ah, dang it.
Very good, Presley. Presley even had the hand motions with it.
Ooh.
Make parentheses,
Parentheses,
boys.
So now I'm going to have this 2 out in front still, and I'm going to do my my GCF and my GCF. So what's my GCF of x squared plus 2x? X. What's inside the inside this parentheses? X plus 2. What's my next GCF?
My Z on these,
Four.
they're gonna be a
4. 2 goes into the 4 is our GCF. Now we're left with what?
X plus 2.
X plus 2. Very good, Presley. Double parenthesis at the end because we got to close this small parenthesis. We got to close the big parenthesis. I think so.
I said low key.
Okay.
X plus 2 parentheses x plus 4.
Now we have x plus 2 in our first parentheses and x plus 4 in our next parentheses because x plus 2 is the same. But what am I forgetting?
Parentheses.
The
That
right.
2. That makes it our final answer.
No,
Very
see,
good.
my mom told me I was better at real world stuff.
Okay.
I like real situations.
Question on that? Yes, Maddox.
I got x plus 4.
Working on their truck.
Yep, so the order of these 2 doesn't matter. As long as we have our 2 out in front, we do the same thing inside the parentheses. Yep. Okay. Apparently, are you confused or just waiting to go on the next one?
Guys, I'm just grabbing you.
Continuing on.
What?
Okay, this one's our half one. On number 5, what would be our first step?
You can
Switch it around. You can.
Okay, factor, we can't. What do you say, Maddox?
And-
Standard form. Are we in standard form yet?
No.
No, if we try to make our x right now, we'd have 6 times 13 is what we try to do. We end up with negative 78 on the top and negative 5 on the bottom, and we'd have a heck of a time trying to find something here. We get the completely wrong thing. What we actually need to do is you order this into 6b squared what?
6 squared minus
minus 13b minus 5. So now my x would actually be what on the top? Negative 30 and 1 on the bottom. Does that seem a lot more manageable?
No.
Yeah, okay. We're not gonna finish that one. That was the one we're doing half of.
Oh.
Okay. And now we're gonna finish off with number 6.
Spooky.
Okay. Well, okay. What's our first step?
You have to make the x, and then you have to
It's already in standard form actually. In this case though, we just have a y squared back here. But it's still in descending order of x's, alphabetical. So we want to make our x,
I don't like
and there's no GCF between 5 to anyone and 4, or our variables. So what goes at the top? What's 5 times 4? 20. What goes on the bottom? Anyone? Now, are these both going to be positive, negative, or one of each? Both positive. They're both the same sign. Look at the bottom, see what sign? They're both positive. So what are the factors of 20 that can add to 91?
4 and 5. That
4
won't
and
add.
5 up to 9.
That won't add.
20 and 1. Does 20 times 1 equal 20?
Yes.
Does 20 plus 1 equal 91?
Yes.
That feels such a big brain.
Not big brain.
You know, we only use like 10% of our brain.
That's what I said.
He uses 15.
Oh.
I
So-
use 0.
Can anybody tell me what I'd write here for my 4-term polynomial?
Yes.
Okay.
I was about to say.
Okay.
5x squared
Yep.
plus 20x y
Yeah.
plus 1xy.
Okay.
Plus 4y squared.
Very good. Levi caught the tricky part of this problem.
Just the other variable.
The middle term is xy. The middle term is xy. We take whatever is with that variable in the middle as we split it, because 20xy plus xy has to go back to being 91xy. So we need the x and the y on both. Very good. Now, as we factor here, what's our GCF of our first one as we make these parentheses, as we do the Presley's parentheses symbol?
5x.
Okay, 5x in our first one. Now what are we left with?
Your left is x plus 4.
X plus 4y. Very good. Now what's our GCF of xy and a positive 4y squared? Just y. And what are we left with in the parentheses?
Is that a negative one y right there?
Where?
In the middle?
No, this is the plus y. Yep. Good question. Thanks for asking. What?
No.
X plus 4y. We have the same thing inside both parentheses? Gucci. So what am I writing now?
Minus
X
plus
plus
y.
Yeah. X plus 4y is already the first parenthesis. Oh, you're, it doesn't matter the order we do it. Doesn't matter the order we do it. As long as you have the same two parentheses, that's what matters.
Got him.
Question on that one, guys.
Got him.
Okay. Now, guys, on your homework, I'm really going to encourage you guys to make sure it's in standard form and to look for a GCF before we progress too far.
Ow. Bye, Ellen.
No idea.
What? You don't know who that is? You never watched Camp Rock? Camp Rock?
Camp Rock.
What?
Aw.
You've never
We
seen
do
them?
all over.
I've watched multiple times. You never seen them?
Oh, I watched Bunk. That's the only show I watched.
Camp Rock was
It's called
crazy.
Bunk.
But it's not a childhood show. Bunk's not like tween years. Yeah.
Tween years?
I've
Did you
never.
not have
That's
a
the only
childhood?
camping show that I
What are
ever
your
watched.
tween years?
You know what I watched when I was younger? I watched Phineas and Ferb, okay?
That's
And Nickelodeon, that's it.
Okay, you
Hey,
never
guys.
watched Camp Rock?
Hey, guys. I want you guys to do the, for 2 through 18. Actually, wait.
I think
Let
Mark's
me
really
look up homework, what I want.
Okay, well, you need to go home and you need to watch both.
No, I'm gonna go home and watch Haunted House 1 and Haunted House 2. 'cause those are
Watch
my
Camp
favorites.
Rock. It's really good.
And I'm gonna go home and watch Dukes of Hazzard.
Camp Rock has the Jonas Brothers in it.
Oh, I'm not watching
That's
that.
probably why I didn't watch it.
Oh my gosh, I went to Baker's and which is like baking or it comes up and it's like.
Right.
No,
It's a kids program we get a lot
Is
of.
that like a
no, when I was
music camp?
younger, I saw girls in it and I thought cooties were
Is it
in
the
it.
music camp one?
Yeah.
At least you're third.
Yeah, I had STEM rock.
Yeah,
It's
I
in it.
I'm definitely not watching it.
Rock.
I want you guys to just do the evens.
Yeah, we're gonna do even.
I'm really upset that you have not seen it.
I have.
That's just
Remember now.
disappointing.
Oh yeah, you're gonna
Really?
You
be
should have
Really?
remembered by the name of it, not me explaining it to you.
I think
Are you really gonna
Really
make me
good
watch
movie.
it seriously? Because I'm not going to. You can't make me.
Yeah.
You're not
You never
gonna
watched
watch
it
it.
with your sisters?
What?
You never watched it with your sisters?